For devs by devs, we're breaking the norm. This is DF, yeah, we transform.
All right. Well, welcome to Friday Live. That was some AI generated music by Suno, which is kind of a neat platform. Give it a try, check it out. I think you can plug in basically anything into it and it'll generate some stuff. I apologize if there's a bit of an echo. One of the recent iOS updates seems to not pause my volume of my iPad, so I apologize for that. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I know a big percentage of our community is celebrating Black Friday, if that's a celebration at all. And but we still have a really good turnout today. So this week we are going to be featuring a couple things. We're going to be talking about just quickly, I want to show you a new custom function that we're using to write custom prompts, context-aware prompts, and I'll give you a couple examples of that. And then secondarily, we are going to be featuring our drag and drop editor. So I'm really excited about that, and I think that's why a whole bunch of people are here to see it. Later on today, we're going to invite you into an organization where you can try it out for yourself. With some guidelines, and hopefully that goes smoothly. Just a quick reminder, today is being recorded, as you know, and if there is anything that's shared that you didn't want to be shared, let us know and we'll make sure that we block that out. Towards the end, if you've registered ahead of time, usually before about 9 o'clock, we will enter you in for our swag draw and send you some goodies there. After we're done today, we'll run for about 2 hours. We usually have a post-show hangout for about a half an hour or so you're welcome to kick around. I want to tell you about some events that we recently participated at. Most recently, Hassan, myself, and Madalena from our team were in Malmo, Sweden. And we had an opportunity to meet some of our European colleagues, which was really great to hang out with. We also are going to be at Engage Austin, and that's coming up in March. Here's a few pictures from there's Hassan working our booth / table, and this is and one of the other events there. You can see Jeroen on the left-hand side and Andy, one of our BetterForms users, on the right. What's really neat about these events, if you don't go to them, is just the conversation. It's not, I don't think, in my opinion anyway, it's not about the sessions. In fact, I went to only one half of one session, but I got so much out of it just by talking to people. So it's really beneficial if you get a chance. You may know Christian Schmitz in the background and Philippe on the left there as well. Jeremy's in the middle. He was recently featured on some podcast, and Madeleine and myself in the forefront. Couple things here really quick. I want to tell you about some new pricing models that we have coming out, or we have that have just come out, and we're pretty excited about this. I think it's going to be a good adjustment to the way we do our current pricing. So I'll tell you about that right now. Basically, originally we haven't changed our pricing model in a number of years, and this new model is a little bit more right-sized for our average developers. What we did is we looked across several hundred users, and we said, okay, how many apps are they building? What are they building? What's the right fit? What's fair to somebody who's only building 1 or 2 things compared to somebody who's building 10 things, and so on. So what we've done is we've introduced a new pricing model. This is only for new licenses. We're grandfathered the other ones in for the next little while. And basically the fundamental difference is the pricing model is on a per app basis. So prior to this, we used to have our citizen developer, which is an entry-level plan that had a 3-app limit and 20-page limit. Now we have this at a 1-app limit, and we've modeled this very similar to a European reseller plan that we also have. And it's a single app, but the price has gone down a little bit too. So the price has dropped by about a third or so. And I think that's going to be really suitable for a lot of people who have simple portals and that kind of thing. Our pro developer plan drops by about 30-40% in cost, and it goes down to one app instead of unlimited apps. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. And our vertical plan still stays at the same price, but it does have a 5-app limit. The only difference is, or caveat, is that those apps are all related to the same organization. So for example, if you have a delivery company and you have a booking portal and you have a driver portal and you have an employee portal and so on, those can all be under the same license umbrella. Does anybody have any questions about that at all?
Yeah, Charles, it says environments 2, 5, and 5. Can you just tell me the
Sure.
term what environments means?
Yeah. So environments are when you build an app, you have a development environment typically that you start off with, and then you would have a production environment. So those are your two minimums, if you will. Right. Bigger apps, you tend to want to move a little bit more meticulously. So you'd have a development, staging, maybe a test environment, and then a production environment. So that's the difference there. So with our pro plan, you can have up to 5 environments. So you could have maybe 2 development environments where you want to fork something off and do a bunch of experiments that are more destructive. Or you may want to have, for example, if we have a test environment and we have a test environment, we have a staging environment, and they're connected to different backends, right? Similar database, one goes to destructible data and the other one goes to production data.
So Charles, along that, I'm scrolling down a little bit further. It says FileMaker servers. So you can only have one server, but 2 environments. So you can't have like for the lowest one, you can't have a dev and a production
I
server.
think that one there is actually going to change a little bit there because somebody pointed that out the other day, and it's odd that when we reviewed this and everything, and no, but we didn't really notice it. We showed our audience, our users that as well, and nobody commented. But then we did see it the other day, so that'll probably change to 2 environments, so you can separate your production server and your development server. That would only make sense, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And how does this affect people who are renewing these new plans? Like,
Currently
can we
we
stay on
don't
the plan
have
that we currently have, or do we have to migrate to one of these plans?
No. Currently we will grandfather in those plans, and we'll give you ample notice if we decide to make any changes to those. Right, so they won't affect anybody existing. All right, I want to tell you also about some Black Friday promotions that we have on right now, and I think they're pretty good. And I think I'm gonna message Madalena before the end of the call, and we'll do a special promo just for today's call as well. The promos are on our citizen developers, $50 off. So that's 15% or so. So basically $345. That works to be about $30 a month or something like that. So that's a great option there. Our pro plan is $300 off. You get quite a bit more savings there at only $895 for your first year. We still include all of the same things that we got with the old plans as well there. And then finally, off of a vertical license, it's $1,250. So that's normally down from $700. So you save yourself about $500. We do have some prepaid consulting promos on as well. These are sort of some bigger packages that we only offer at Black Friday this time of year. We've had something similar. It was really, really successful last year as well. And basically, you get five consulting hours for the cost of 25 for the cost of 20. So you get 5 bonus there. And then we have a bigger plan here at 52. So there's a bonus of extra 12 hours over when you purchase 40. Something, and one final promotional thing here is we have, and this is kind of exciting actually. This is something we're just trying out. We know that there's a lot of need for UX in our community. And especially if you were on Friday Live, maybe 2 Friday Lives ago, roughly or so, Chris Conger from NavaQ had made a really good point about how having a design is a game changer, how it's like it gives you a roadmap of when you're building an app. We basically don't build almost anything without UX. So we wanted to make a special package here. And the idea here is you get 15 hours of UX and you end up saving about $1,000. So it's about 40% off or so of what it normally would cost. It doesn't include any project management or anything like that. It's just pure UX design. Use the resources any way you see fit. So that's something that's brand new that we've just introduced, and looking forward to seeing how that works out for everybody.
Hey, Charles, I know it's not your agenda, Dean Sir here, but can you just, you're adjusting your pricing models and those sorts of things, but if you don't mind, can you give us just kind of your perspective as to where the company is and how you're doing, and what does the last couple of 3 years look like? And, are we heading down the same path or shifting or
Yeah.
so on? Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
So we, as a company, for transparency, we do about 50% of our revenue from consulting. We'd like to reduce that down to around 30%, ideally. That's kind of a more of a sweet spot. We don't want to ever get away from that. I'm just talking about sort of high level right now, our two main bubbles. We don't want to move away from that because we do a lot of dog fooding, right? BetterForms is built out of BetterForms. We use it for everything. We don't pretty much have any FileMaker apps that have any kind of UI. We have one application that we use for running meetings, and that's it. And so we want to stay very hands-on that way. We're looking at doing a few things coming forward. We feel we're still pretty decently positioned, very good positioned in terms of our product offering. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on when we get into our GUI editor. I was at Engage U and I watched the keynote presentation, and I watched Claris Studio. And I also saw a gentleman who had a really, really nice app built in WebDirect. So I got to see probably one of the best apps I've ever seen in WebDirect. And I got to see where Claris Studio is going. And we don't try to position ourselves and say, okay, well, we're going to be over here because they're over there. We have always been in the same position because that's what you need to have public-facing web portals, right? So we've always sort of been focusing on features and capabilities that we need as developers ourselves and as an intermediate to an expert developer in the FileMaker world as well. But we don't want to limit ourselves to just FileMaker. BetterForms was never built to have FileMaker only connection. In other words, our architecture is such that we can actually connect any database to the back end of BetterForms. The caveat there is, and why don't we that much, is because very few databases have a business logic layer. They don't have the ability to add code in between the database and the front end. That's something that FileMaker does, right? FileMaker is full stack. It's got front end UI, that's the view layer. It's got the controller, that's the script. And then it's got the model, which is basically your graph. And we would love to expand into those other areas in addition to FileMaker. We don't want to leave this community. This is us, right? We love this community. Have no intention of moving anywhere from here. But we want to be able to expand into other markets as well, because what that'll do is that brings in a ton of extra development resources that we can pump into the platform, and we can continue to share that amongst all the users. So it's kind of a good thing. We are looking at some various areas that have sort of back-end business logic, but have really expensive front ends, or have no front end ability. So that's sort of on a high level of what our plans are. Because of that, we're working on a name change. So BetterForms was never meant to be the product name. It was picked out of my own hubris. I used to make examples or see people do examples, and I would go in and say, I can make a better example than that. And then I would just code it better, in my opinion. Not always. So I used to try to do something, and I saw something that was related to forms. I said, I think I can make it better. So let me make a BetterForms. And then that became the name of the file and FileMaker that the file was. And it never left the name of that file, but it's not appropriately named for what the product does, right? Web Builder would be more, not exciting, but more accurate. So we're looking and we're working on some frameworks to rebrand and to change the name a little bit so it's more properly fitted for what we offer. Does that answer your question at all, Dean?
Yeah, no, I think insight is good for those of us out here that, aren't in the driver's seat or the passenger seat next to you. Is just kind of where we going, and because yeah, as you know, I love the product. I'm not a wizard at it, but and the more you engage with it, the more you learn, and the more, as you say, the more web building, the more other things, just outside of it's a form, it's a FileMaker database, and we'll use that for that part of this experience. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Just a quick maybe show of hands. I want to know how many people are communicating with an LLM and using some type of a prompt. If you could do like a hands up kind of thing, I think it's a hands up or a thumbs up, just to give me an idea. And this kind of governs one. I only got one. There's got to be a few more. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you anyway, because even if you're a year or two behind, or this will be relevant down the road and kind of important down the road. One of the things that we've been doing is we've been working a lot with AI. And we sort of have a side project, Eduardo and myself, and we're working on improving our AI assistant. It's okay, but where it can go is so much more. And our industry is changing quite a bit as well. And so I've been talking a lot about multi-agentic workflows and all kinds of AI related stuff. But the main idea of integrating your database or any system with, it could be Claris Connect, I guess. It could be a Note N8N or any of these types of automation tools. And integrating with AI is that you have to have some kind of data, you have to have some kind of prompt, and you process that. And recently I made an example file, and I just want to talk a little bit really quickly about this, and then we will get into this other thing, not this one here, but just a second here. And we'll release, this is part of our public examples file, but this version's not released just yet. And I will do that very shortly as soon as I clean this up a little bit more. But basically what we wanted to demonstrate is we wanted to take advantage of some of BetterForms abilities, our infrastructure. That's the software. We have sort of four code repositories, if you will. And what we call our base code, that's the code that runs in the cloud that actually serves your app. That code is, it's built with a framework so that your browser can communicate in real time to the cloud. So a few years ago, we introduced messaging. And messaging is this really powerful feature that just, we added a couple of years ago, and we're just starting to see people using it now. And this is going to be another one of these features. So what we've done is we've introduced a streaming AI proxy. And basically what that is it's the ability to stream data. So this is just a FileMaker web viewer. You can see that here. And it's the ability to stream data. It uses our messaging bus that we've already built years ago. And it is an interface or a proxy that connects FileMaker to an LLM like OpenAI. Currently, we just support OpenAI, but we've added things in place to be able to support other LLMs as well. So why you want this is this isn't an exciting file, this one here, but the concepts are really, really exciting. So this is just a BetterForms page sitting in a web viewer, but I can actually talk to, say ChatGPT. So if I was to say hello, this kind of thing, and this will look somewhat familiar, assuming that everything is working properly. Hello, how can I assist you today? I was like, great. So I got somebody on the other end, so to speak. So when we're doing these kinds of things, if we're interfacing with FileMaker is very layout contextual, right? I'm on this user's, this client's CRM, their profile. I'm on this particular invoice. I'm in this product. I'm in this report, right? All of these kinds of things. So how do you dynamically manage all your prompts and add in extra pieces of information into your prompt when you're moving around in the app and this stays open maybe over here, and this thing can move around to these different areas, areas within the application. So I just want to confirm that I'm recording. I forgot if I hit record. Yes, I am. Okay. All right. Haven't done that in a while. So how do we manage that? Well, you can basically check, say if I'm on layout dashboard, this is my prompt. You can do those kinds of things. But there's a lot of nuances to prompt writing as you start to get into this. And one of the things with today, and this might change in 6 months, but probably not. One of the things with prompt writing is it's like almost a new language. It really is. There really is a skill to it. They call it prompt engineering, and all the prompt, if you Google prompt engineering, those videos are on really kind of simple stuff, right? Just, you are a bot of such and such. You are a CRM or HR resources expert and so on. But there's a lot more depth to writing really effective prompts there. And one of the things that we found, and others as well, is that the LLM can get lost if you have a couple things. If you have even just a slight misalignment or incongruency between one part of your prompt and another part. So for example, if you change terminology and you say the bill of sale, if the bill of sale is past due the due date, then do this. But later on, you say also if the invoice is before the due date, do that. Just those little subtle things can really, really bugger up your prompts. So one of the things that we're doing now is we're creating context-aware dynamic prompting. And this is sort of the first level of taking prompting up a notch. The idea here is instead of passing just a simple prompt, I'm merging some data in. The way we're doing this right now is we usually take some kind of a table or excuse me, a field. We write the prompt in the field, and here's a really simple one here. And we add a merge tag. And we use a FileMaker substitute, and we just put all the variables in, and we substitute the merge tag out. But it doesn't scale well. When you want to change the prompt, you got to change the code as well. So what we've just recently released, and excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so I'm just going to clear my throat for a second. What we've recently released is a bit of a framework for helping to write more complex templates. If you're interested in, I'm not going to get in too much on the structure of how we fetch the data from the prompt, but I think that's really, really interesting. But I want to talk just about this repository. The one that's online right now, I haven't updated. I just updated it this morning because I found a bug in it. So let me just explain what this does. So I want to introduce FileMaker, a mustache template processor. Mustache templates are the curly braces. And basically it's an ability for processing that. So let's look at how it works. You can take something relatively simple. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And we take a very basic prompt here. There we go. So I'm going to take this prompt over here, and I'm going to say, write an email to my client informing them about the status of their invoice. This is just something silly, right? The client's name, and I can add these merges. And I was like, okay, great. We can do that already. Today's date. This is interesting. So today's date, we actually merge in, because the LLM doesn't know the date, an actual evaluation, get current date. Now, what that means is, since you can now put inline evaluations, that means you can actually reference things. Anybody who's done any older style web development, used to do an include, and you would include your header and include your footer. You can sort of do those kinds of things with get column now, right? Do it like a SQL wrapper. And then over here, we also have the ability in this now and this is just a simple custom function, but it has the ability to add conditionals. So if is preferred, dollar is preferred is going to be a variable that is instantiated at runtime when this gets evaluated. So during a script, then we can actually conditionally add this piece of information in here. And then there's an else condition, and then we can add this condition in here too. So if the client is preferred, then we'll give them review the invoice and suggest other items that may be of interest. And else, advise the client to please be kind and pay on time and such. And then you can put some more information at the end. So now you can't nest these, but you can have multiple conditions of these conditional things. What that does is that makes your programming of prompts a lot easier because you're not going to get lost in the weeds here. We do it in the BetterForms editor by actually having two separate prompts, a main prompt and a contextual prompt, and we put those together. But even those, there's a lot of sort of conditions. The LLMs aren't really good at deducing logic. Like if the invoice is greater than that date and this happens there, then use this. But otherwise do that. All of those really complex logic cases, they kind of get lost in. So this allows you to sort of semi blend data logic or business logic into your actual prompt. So the way this works is, and I'll just show you quick and we'll finish up with this. The way this works is when I run this process, we're just running a really, really simple script. And here is the script here. It's pretty simple. I'm grabbing my template out of my field in dollar template. I'm setting some contextual data. So the user is Jerome Moore. That happens to be my nightlife acting name, you could say. I'm adding an amount, a dollar amount. And so I'm just instantiating some variables, and here's a Boolean here, right? It's pretty simple. It's a custom function. You just process it just like that. That's it. And you return the output, and you do whatever you want with it. You call your LLM from there. This is just a custom function, but it's really the concept that I want to get across. I think that's the real important thing. Integration super easy. Copy a custom function. That's the beauty of them. And another beauty of custom functions is that you can write a bunch of tests for it. So you can test the custom function and under various conditions to make sure that it performs properly, right? And that's really, really nice. So you can run all the tests here. There should be one test that fails, which is the one for nested components. It doesn't currently support that. I'll update our GitHub repository, and you can find this if you go to GitHub and search for Delphs Engineering, and then go to our repositories, and you can see that there. It's public. And this file is in there as well. So I hope that helps anybody who is writing any kind of advanced prompting. If you're interested in more of this stuff, and you will be in some time, then let us know, because we have tons of information that we'd really love to share with our community. But not everybody is sort of taking advantage of AI. If you're looking for ideas and things like that, we're happy to brainstorm, and we can cover some of that stuff in an upcoming workshop as well. I'm going to just tell you one more thing real quick. Mark Anderson contacted me, and he said, how can I make a recommendation engine? And I said, oh, that's interesting, right? And so how can you, because I see all these people talking about semantic search, but in my opinion, the stuff that they're doing is really boring. And they're not even real world examples from what I've seen, not too many of them. But a recommendation engine is really, really interesting. In the past, to make these recommendation engines, you'd have to use a graph database. Is a different type of database where the database, we think of records going like this, rows and records. Imagine you sliced all those records and you just threw them on the floor, and you just connected any pieces of information randomly. So each record is almost like its own little table, if you will. And you have these nodes or vertices connecting. That's what a graph database sort of does. So it can find these relationships really, really well and fast, super performant. But now we have semantic search. We can actually create, with FileMaker, we can create data, synthetic data that we can use to embed and then do a search against that. And just to give you a really, really quick example is if you were to take, I'm I want to do a recommendation engine for products. So what I do is I take my client and I say, how much does my average client spend? Now they're only spending $5 to $50. So I'm going to quantify that into a low cost bucket. And the next client, I'm going to take some data. I'm going to say, well, they spend $50 to $500, and that's maybe a type tier 2 or a medium quality client. And then there's an expensive one; they spend more. And you take that, you quantify it, and you put it in a piece of data. So high, middle, low, something like that. Then you take a few other items that they purchase, and you create a bit of a story with that. So you basically say items that John purchases are they're interested in this, and this. You take all of that stuff, you run it to the LLM, and you say create a personal profile on this person, right? And now you have an idea of what that person is. Then you go to your products and you do the same thing without the person, and you say give me a description of this product, and then you do the semantic search against those. And now you have basically a recommendation engine for other things that they're interested in, minus the one that they already purchased, of course. So that's kind of a nutshell how you can build that with semantic search. Anyhow, anybody have any questions on this? Is that kind of useful, or does it make sense, or is it like no good, waste of time? Really awesome. Buy me beer. Oh well, in one day you will. I promise. All right, so that is some little bit of AI stuff because I want to keep up on that. I am going to I'm gonna pass things over to Hassan, who's our product owner. He manages sort of the tasks and keeps things pushing along in BetterForms with the rest of our team. And we're going to talk about our new GUI drag and drop editor. We're really excited about this. This is almost totally finished in the sense of it's ready for beta testing. There's lots of work to be done here, and there's lots of new features, and we've added lots of features in, and we're going to go over those in detail. We'll take some turns, but I hope this is on the right track of what you guys would find moving in the right direction. So Hassan, I'm going to flip it over to you.
Guys, yeah, I'm gonna take over here. So yeah, is my screen sharing?
Yes.
All right, so shortly, Charles will be inviting any of you who would want to join into an organization where you guys can play around with the AI with the GUI editor. So what I'll be doing right here is this is that organization, and when you guys will join as well, you guys will kind of start with a starter copy page. So I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this page over here, and we can start by editing in there. All right, great. So now it's duplicated over here. Let's just I'll call this Hassan. All right, and now to access the GUI editor, what you do is these ellipses over here, you can click on these and click New Editor. Once you click that, it'll open up like this. So a lot of you probably haven't seen this GUI editor before, and I'll kind of do a walk down. So over here on the left-hand side is where we have the elements. Layout over here is for arranging groups. Over here, forms is all the different forms we have, such as like a credit card form. We have inputs and so on. Basic over here for now is we have a table too, which you can drag on and you can kind of edit in here. I'll go more in depth into this shortly. Buttons over here for now, we have two buttons that you can work with. We have a radio button and a normal button. Development is just for seeing your data model, it's a data model inspector. And then over here, we also have some HTML tags you can add in, such as like an image tag, and you can customize these as well. Next, in media, we have some drop zones. This is for signatures and for file uploads. Gateways is where we have some payment gateway examples, and you can hook all these up as well. And lastly, we have components. These components will be the components that you have in your app, and you'll be able to drag these on as well and edit these. For example, I have a page header over here. I can drag that on and edit that. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete everything and kind of give you guys a walkthrough of what some of this stuff does.
Allison, sorry to interrupt you. Just quick note to everybody. I'm going to start adding some people. Thank you for your emails. I'm going to add you in right now. Please, if you can, just wait till the end of our demo and we'll walk you through some stuff first. Just way we don't, we're going to be sharing a same environment, so collaboratively, but that also means that you might take our example page and just erase it. So just if you could hold off, I'm going to add you in out of trust. I trust that you won't be destructive for the first little bit. Okay, thanks.
All right, great. So let's go over to our tree over here. We won't really be poking around much in here. All we'll simply do is over here in our page body. If I click here, let's add a class called P4. Let's just give it some padding. And now let's go back into our elements. So let's make a simple dashboard. So over here, I'm going to add in this component that I made called page header. So this is up here. Maybe I want to change the name, so I'll add a title key in here. And let's just call it my invoice page. As you see, this live edits on the side as well. So as you're working, your GUI editor will be updating. Let's add some additional fields in here as well. Let's add forms. Maybe let's do some input fields. Going to do input field 1, and let's do another one. Let's do input field 2. Maybe this one let's call it first name, and the second one we can call last name. So here, first name. And yeah, that's good. And for this one, let's do last name. And now another thing I kind of want to demonstrate here is mapping it to the model. So over here on the side, we have model, a key over here, and we have the type of input field we want. So for both of these, we'll just go with text for now, since that's fine. And let's map it to let's do first name. Okay. And now let's just go into our data model over here, and maybe we'll add a first name. Let's do first name. There we go. And now you see if I go here, it's already filled in. So these just live edited. So now you guys might be wondering, how do I put these two fields together? So that's what our layout section over here is for. So let's add in a new group over here. And let's kind of drag both of them into that group. So drag one in, and let's drag the other in as well. So now they're both in the group. And now how do we kind of want to change that? So over here from the groups, you can look over here is the groups we made. Oh, I may have missed dragging that in. And there we go. And now how do we kind of want to change what's wrapped around here? We can go into here. Let's just give it a flex. And there we go. Now they're beside each other. Now let's go into this one. And over here, you have style and label. Label are the label classes for the label at the top, such as if I wanted to change this to like text XL. See, I can make that bigger now. And then we have style here, which is just for the general input field. So let's just give this width full. And let's also give this width full. And maybe the general group, we want to have some division between it. So let's just do a gap of 4. Oh, spelled that wrong. And you see over here, a lot of things pop up for you. So you can kind of pre-type ahead and kind of select things over here. So let's do that, gap 5. Great. Now let's continue building on our page over here. So maybe I want to put in a button over here that says like send email. So let's put in this button here. Let's call it send email. Okay, and now how do we map this to an action? Normally when you use a BetterForms button, you would kind of paste in the named action that it's referencing. But now over here, we can simply just click this drag down and choose an action. So I'll just choose a send email action. The send email action is just an action I've created over here. So you can reference your local scripts or global scripts over here, which is why you see so many. So let's just reference our local script of send email. And there we go. Next, let's add on, maybe we want a table on this page. So I'm going to head over, let's go to basic and add on a table. Okay, and now how do I map this up? So in my data model over here, you see I have invoices, an array of invoices. A lot of you, this is typically what your tables would look like. It would just be an array of a bunch of elements. So maybe I want to map this up. So all I will do here is let's map it to invoices, change the model key over here. And now let's use some of the fields. Client was one of them. So we'll change the column, and you see it already fills in over here for you. And let's do another one. Let's do maybe date. And maybe I want to add another one. So let's click plus over here and let's add amount. And there we go. So that was a simple, quick walkthrough of how you could kind of get started on your dashboard page. Right now, obviously, this isn't this isn't styled a lot, but you see it was pretty quick to build something like this out. We were just able to drag some stuff on, map it up right away, and we can already see what it looks like. You no longer have to click preview, look at your page, look back, and see the different types of changes you're making. You can kind of see that live as you're editing, which saves a significant amount of time in developing. So I'll pass it back over, or wait, is there any questions first before Charles gets started on more of a hands-on demo?
I have a couple, or at least one question. I noticed you have data in the data model and I don't see a development data model. I'm just wondering.
Oh yeah, there's a development data model over here as well. I just put it over here just for the demo purposes. Charles, you're muted, by the way, I believe, if you were trying to talk.
That's interesting. I think that was Jason. Do you think we should leave that on? Is there any need to hide that? Like, we make it controllable, but we should always be displayed.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I just missed it. I'm sure I would have found it if I was doing it myself.
Good.
In the builder, can you click on the little toggle to show group outline? Maybe you already did it. I missed
yeah, right here. Let me do that right here.
Okay.
You see, that's the group I'm hovered
Yep.
over right now, and there's the outline
Yep.
around it.
Very nice. I'm assuming you can nest groups inside of groups, or can you not yet?
Yeah, so I could just drag on another group over here and put everything in that group.
Yeah, okay, great.
And can
And
you
there's easier ways to do that as well. For example, so like over here, if I add this group on, and if I go to like the parent group over here, for example, or these groups, you see over here, there's this icon we have, see layers.
Oh, yeah,
So you can kind of choose what layer it's in and where to kind of put it.
nice.
And you can move it ahead like that. There's also this icon over here, which is for duplicate, just to instantly duplicate things. And we also have a lot of different keyboard shortcuts over here to kind of do stuff. So there's a lot of little stuff over here as well that you guys will notice as you guys get hands-on with it and see different things you can do.
How about like adding calcs, like visibility calcs or stuff like that?
Yeah.
Go into the data model to do that, or?
Yeah, so right here, actually, there's this F over here for function, where you
Okay.
could click that and it would become a calc. I didn't necessarily show off a lot of the stuff, but you can do everything that you can normally do. Right now, I just kept it kind of basic, but yes, you could
Like
do that as well.
visibility, how would you?
You also have full control over the schema, the old schema as well.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so the schema is here. Right now, you will see these attributes over here, which is kind of what makes it drag and droppable.
Okay,
We will be removing this further down the line, so like you don't see this on this page, and it's a lot easier to like kind of edit, because right now it might look a little more intimidating than before, simply because there's these form element datas over here, so it allows us to drag and drop.
sure. So this is how you would do the visibilities over here
No,
versus?
you could still do it over here as well. You would just add a new field. And there's a full. Kind of add the field name in there, and you see over here
This
already
part
function
here,
for-
just a quick caveat. This is still, we're still not, this whole bottom section of this editor downside tab, the bottom right corner here, is we don't have a final UI for this. This is a temporary UI.
Yeah.
It will change a little bit.
So field options aren't like we're thinking in FileMaker fields, they're related to.
It's a sub key of that object. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So this is
Yeah.
one of the things that Pearson's working on right now. Is like, how do we, one of the challenges is how do we maintain full flexibility,
Yeah.
but also simplify it down a little bit. So for the most part, things are really just wrapped on top of the JSON, the original schema.
Yeah.
You know, just like our actions editor, which has become really popular. But it's really just it's a visual sugar on top of the original data.
Yep. Absolutely.
And is this window, will it show responsive as well as you
Oh
showed
yeah,
it?
yes. So let me show you that right now, actually. So it will show responsividity as well.
Perfect. Awesome.
Very nicely done, guys.
All right. If there's no further questions, I'll pass it off to Charles for the hands-on demo. I'm just gonna save this page over here. So start copy page, Hassan. And to begin your own pages, you just duplicate off the starter copy page.
All right, I'm gonna jump into my screen here quick. So I've added those people who've dropped their emails. What you will need to do if you have your BetterForms account to open is there'll be a new item in here. It won't automatically refresh, so you may have to refresh your page. And you will see a new organization that we've invited you to, and that'll be called BF Public Sandbox. So you can jump to that. I'll give it a couple seconds. And then once you have jumped to there, if you've never been part of multiple organizations, you will see this little checkbox that says all organizations, but select this as an organization because this organization has some additional privileges, features enabled on it. And we're going to go into the app Better Public Sandbox and then into our development environment. And we'll just hang on. We'll just wait there for a few seconds.
In the meantime, I can add any additional people. Jason, I'll add you in right now.
All right, I see Chris Conger. It's like when I was a little kid, we had this TV show called The Romper Room. I don't know where it was from. I think it was a local thing. Pretty cheesy. And the lady looked through this mirror, but it was really a ring. And she said, I see Timmy and I see Pearson. And anyway, I only see Chris Conger in here. So somebody's made it. Somebody's managed to navigate this far and the other one's not so much. So just once again, you'll have to select this organization if you don't see it. And we've added your email. You have to post your email in the chat first. And refresh your browser, select this organization, wait a second, it'll switch over. And then you're going to select Public Sandbox for the application. And then you're going to select the development environment.
Oh, I just added Jason to the wrong one. I'll just add you guys in here in just a second.
Yeah, I did all the way up to Jesper there, Hassan.
No, Charles, you have me as a user.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me switch that just a second. Should be good now, I think. There we go. Yeah.
All right, great. I think we're now adding everyone in here.
This will be kind of interesting because we've only seen more for four or five people usually in collaboration at the most. So
I'm still not seeing anything.
I have to add you still, Jason.
Oh.
Just my bad. I added you to the wrong place, so I'm just adding you in now. You should have gotten an invite now, Jason.
while we're doing that, I just
Oh, I
want
have
to
to
talk.
get an invite in my email.
You could simply just refresh your page and you'll be able to see it in one of your organization drop downs. I believe I've added anyone. If anyone's missed it, please let me know and I'll add you in as well. To see it, all you would simply have to do is just refresh your BetterForms app, and in the top right drop-down menu, you should see BF Public Sandbox.
And while we're joining, I want to talk about just some caveats here. So this is really, really important. The first one, the editor is beta, as you know. you're sharing an application with a bunch of people for testing, so be respectful of that. Don't go and edit any pages right now just yet. What I want you to do is you'll duplicate them. We'll do some stuff together, but duplicate the page. We'll name it to you, so you got your own little name, just like in school, and that's your desk, that's your spot, and then you can play in there. That way we don't step on each other while we're doing things. The app is running on a newer version of our base code. It's version 3. Version 3 of our base code supports a number of different features. We continue to maintain version 2 and version 3 simultaneously. So that way we push out new features into both of those. And we're constantly doing that. The most recent release is about a week ago. Version 3, the main difference is it supports nested groups. So that means we can have items and items and items all the way down. The GUI editor will not work in version 2. Things won't display properly. And it also does a little bit of a conversion. So it converts your app on the fly from version 2 to version 3. It converts the pages that you edit. So as soon as you open up a page in version 3, it'll start to convert it. And if you save it, you've converted it to version 3. So again, don't go and open up your version 2 apps into version 3 and then save them, because you will break the app. You can roll back, you can use the rollback feature to revert it. But having said that, you need to keep that in mind. All right. Pages edited in version 3 cannot be edited in version 2 because there is a slight different schema change. Okay, they're version 3 of our software base code can render to the web. It can render out non-converted pages. So once you upgrade down the road, once you upgrade that, you'll be able to render them fine without even touching the app. You won't have to convert anything or anything like that. It does it on the fly. The new editor, Hassan mentioned, it'll add several attributes. These attributes are needed pieces of information. So for example, and if we could
Also, if anyone's having trouble getting on, just let me know.
yeah, let me just show you really quick. I'll just pick a page here. All right. So it will add a bunch of attributes, and let me just explain what some of these are. Some of these are, and they are somewhat important. There's a couple things that are going on here. These attributes basically allow us to track the elements as you move them around, as you drag and drop them. If you were to delete the element, it'll reappear again, right? This attribute. But it does a lot. There's a few other things that we've added in at the same time in this base code. These attributes can be passed down to extra attributes into the elements as well. And that's why they're structured like this. We didn't just put a simple ID at the top, and it's a little bit bigger of an object. I won't get into the specifics, but it basically gives us more flexibility for more complex apps that we build down the road, or that you build down the road. So that's something here. We do have some known issues, and we would really appreciate your feedback. Pearson's on the call here. He's actively listening, and there's a tab at the bottom where it says report a bug. You can just enter it in there. Hassan will triage that and forward it to the right appropriate person and group the common ones together. Some context menus. There are some keyboard shortcuts in the context menu in the active element. So I'm just going to show you that right now. So if I click on here, the keyboard shortcuts, some of these are not wired up at the moment. Editing group names may not show. But actually, I think that one's just fixed the other day. So there's a couple really, really cool features. What I want you to do is, let's start off with this. I want you to find, let's do if we could do this together, is search for home, for the home page here. And we'll start off with just some really simple things. Find the home page. Don't go into the home page. You just have to go to here, and you're going to say duplicate. Once you duplicate it, you can add your name on the end there. Charles, keep out. And you're just going to duplicate that. Okay, so you're going to find the home page, duplicate the home page, and there. If you just click on the row, it'll open up in the regular editor. Go over to the side, and you'll see new editor. That's changing around on me here now. Seeing extra pages. That's the cool thing about collaboration. You see stuff change in real time. We don't normally get a chance to see this. We build it, but we never see it. Very hardly ever. New editor. So I'm going to open up my page. Just verify that it's your page in the top when you open it up. And then I'll meet you here. So I want to just talk about some of the little features that we've built in. You know, we were talking earlier about, no, I'll get into this more detail. I try my best not to push back against UX designers. We work with 3 over the years. Pearson's our main person, but we also have another designer, Anna, we work with, and sometimes Fred, who's been on Friday Live before as well. And try not to push back against their ideas because they see things that I don't see. But sometimes if I don't explain it, it's like, okay, prove this one to me. So there's a number of these little features I'll tell you about that I think, until I started really using them, I think they're pretty good. I didn't like them at first, so. So first thing I want you to do is, and Hassan mentioned this as well, just click on one of these cards here and click on the card here and you'll see I got it highlighted. Sometimes when you have a group, like if I move my mouse over to the side, you can see there's a group right there. If this element is really tight in the group, it's really hard to select that parent group. So a neat feature that Pearson added in here is the ability to go up 1 level. So if I select group, I can actually go up to the parent element, and now I select that parent element easily. The other way of doing that normally is to select this one here, and then I find it in the tree, and then I can go up to that group as well. So there's a couple ways of doing that.
Hey, Charles, just for reference, I believe everyone's starting with the blank template right now is what they're in photo, so I don't know if they'd be seeing a lot of
Okay.
this.
So let me just see. Is that where everybody is? Let me just see. Everybody's in a
Yeah.
different place.
I think people now
No, they're all on
duplicated the
dashboard,
dashboard
right?
as well. Never mind.
It looks like there's a bunch of them on here. You can see over here.
I think it
I
worked
just
out.
want to show these things, and then what we'll do is we'll go
Yeah.
to the blank one. So we'll do that in a second. All right. And I just want to show you some features. And please do, I really do want to get your feedback on these things. You can put it in the chat, you can put it in the report a bug and that kind of thing, or just chime in. All right. So the other thing is, if we click on the group that surrounds these 3 items here, these 3 cards, their components, and sometimes when we're over in the tree, it's hard to see which group is this. There's another group here. There's all kinds of groups. It's hard to tell. So we have the ability now, if you double click on this blue tag, I can call this metrics, for example. And now you'll see that metrics appears here. Really, really easy for kind of figuring out where your stuff is. The old way, if we were editing schema, and we could still have full access to schema, we would have to sometimes put a node in there. So you can do that with almost any of the elements here. Like it says BF component, but maybe I want to put user metric, etc. Right? So I could do those kinds of things as well. And that makes it really, really easy for finding stuff in the future, to building more maintainable apps. Couple other things really, really quick here as well. I want you to select this group again, and I want to show you some other things, and then we'll go and actually build some stuff. Over here on the side, what we're going to do is you see padding X. I'm going to actually just delete that for a second. And I'm going to put P hyphen in here. And you can see that Michael was the main developer who worked on these side parts here. And for the most part, he's built a lot of the UI on this editor. Unfortunately, he's not with us right now. Today anyway. But if I start to mouse down, you can see that I am actually adjusting that padding on that element, which is kind of handy, right? You can also just mouse over, which is something that's pretty unique. Like, I don't think I've seen any UIs where you can just mouse over and do that. So you can kind of sit there and adjust the things in real time and scroll down and say, oh, I think it should be around there, and make it nice and ugly. You can hit undo to undo things as well in the UI. And Hassan did demonstrate this, but I'll mention this really, really quick. When you're dragging things on, sometimes it's hard to figure out where the stuff is going to go. So you can actually select or highlight the groups by showing the group outlines. That's kind of a high-level overview. And I want to just talk about a couple other things, and we'll jump to the other page here. Action scripts remain exactly the same as your regular action scripts. Our data model is the same as well. There will be some cleanup work in this area on this page coming up. And our schema is the same schema as well, with the addition of the stuff. So this way we've maintained 100% compatibility, backwards compatibility, and feature parity with our existing editor. For the most part, there is some subtle differences, but for the most part, the editor is a UI difference and not so much a code or a fundamental change underneath the hood. There are some things in version 3, like the nested groups and such. All right, so that's kind of the editor there. Later on, you can keep that page and we can delete it later on. And then we're going to go back to the home pages. I'll meet you there. And blank, we're going to search for, is it called blank? Sorry, what's it called, Hassan?
Yeah, if you just starter copy page, not this one. This is the one, yeah, we worked on in the app, but the complete blank one, just starter copy page.
All right, so we're going to find starter copy page. That's this one right here. And then duplicate that one. Development. All right, oops, sorry. It's still habit to just click on the page and not go into the editor. That will change to the default editor soon. Our goal is to release everything for an early beta production that you can have into your own accounts for the end of the year, right? This way we want to take our feedback from today, shake out all the really loose bugs and such, and then go from there. So let's build a few things here. What I want to do is we'll just see what's on the page already. I see there's already a group here, so I'm going to actually select that group here, because by default it may not select right away. And I am just so I can see the group. And this is kind of a trick that you can do with any tool. Is I'm just going to give it a bit of padding here, because it looks like by default when you drag a group on, it does have padding. I think it might have gotten deleted there. And I'm going to give it a background color so I can explain some things. So I'm going to say BG hyphen, and I like blue, and I'm going to start off with maybe blue 50. And that's it. That's all I have in my group. And I just want to show you a couple concepts of layouts. One of the things that Pearson did is really kind of neat here is we separated the classes, right? These are still regular CSS classes. So we still have full backwards compatibility with all CSS and any new framework that comes out next week. But what we've done here is we've broken these classes for Tailwind, because Tailwind is pretty common and we can do other things in the future. We've broken these classes down into categories. So you can see it says spacing here and visuals underneath. If we need to edit the class, and let's actually put some text in here. So what we'll do is we'll go over to elements, and we can either search for text or we can find an HTML. It says, I think there's a text in there somewhere. There, text area. No, I want to just, I wasn't gonna do. I thought we had one in. Okay, maybe not. Did we delete the text element? No, yeah, okay.
It's right
That's
there,
fine.
text area, and it's in forms. Text area is in forms. If you go back
Yeah,
to forms.
text area is an input field though, I think, right? So all
yeah.
right, so we're just going to pick plain HTML, and we're just going to drag that onto the page, and I'm going to drag it inside my little blue box, just like so. All right, and you can see it says this is HTML. We can still do conventional HTML editing. One of the things we can do here is if we click on, if we click on the code key next to on the right hand side, we can open up the editor here, and I'm just going to put my name.
You can also open the editor by clicking the ellipses and clicking HTML editor.
Correct. All right, so I've just done that. I've changed the text to just my name. I didn't even put an H1 tag in, because you don't actually need to. There are some, from a building practice, it's kind of better practice to have what they call semantic HTML. It's better for screen readers and accessibilities. But for today, I just want to talk about do something really, really simple. So here we go. I got my text, and let's make our text a little bit bigger. So I'm going to jump over to here, and I'm going to say text hyphen say 3XL. Just like that. I'm going to hit enter. If you already know your classes, you're really comfortable with CSS, you've been building a few things, you can do one at a time, but I can also do multiple ones. So I can say font hyphen bold. And then I can hit, oops, I got to spell properly, BOLD, and I can hit space, and I can enter all of those classes at once, and they'll automatically be broken down into the proper category. So if I say italic, and I say text red, blue, and you won't get the drop down if you have multiple ones, but let's say 700. So I can actually do that, and you'll see all the classes will automatically get broken down, which is kind of handy. So you can still have that speed of development, right? You boom, boom, I know exactly what I want. Some of the things we're working on over here on this right-hand side is the ability to take these classes, select a few of them, and group them effectively. In other words, put them into a higher level class. In Tailwind, it's called assign, I think. I can't remember. Anyhow, you can put them into a higher level class, and then you can just use that one class as well, and that'll show up as like a custom class. So you can still create all your own custom stuff down the road. All right, so here's what I got so far. It's okay, that's kind of cool. But maybe we want to do some more with this, like if I sort of look at the whole thing and say, okay, what do I want to do? Let's talk about using things like Flex and some layout tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab let me grab a couple of other things here too. I'm going to grab an input element. So I'm going to go to Forms section, and I'm going to find my input box, input field. Where's my regular input field? There it is, down at the bottom. We'll switch the order of those. And I'm going to put that just underneath my name here. And I want maybe 2 input fields. So I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to go to my first field, and I'm going to start with that. So that's great if I was on a small screen, right? Everything's looking okay right now on a small screen, but it's not really ideal in a larger screen. A larger screen, we want to group these two together horizontally. So I'm going to grab a group. And, oops, sorry, I just did this group. And I'm going to drag my group onto here. So there's my group there. I can show my group outline as well there. And I'm going to add my 2 elements inside my group. So there's the first one, and I add the second one. So now I got my, oops, there. There's the first one. I can't see. There we go. And there's the second one. So now I have my elements in the group. Why we want to group things is we want to be able to control the orientation of those things. So we're going to use Flex. First of all, I'm going to take my group, and I'm actually going to change the color just for demonstration so you can see what's going on. I'm going to say BG-white. And there we go. I can see my group there now. So now on top of my group, selecting my group again, I'm going to add Flex. Flex is basically, it makes basically your items inside your container it controls the behavior of the elements that are inside of the children. And in this case, it's going to allow them to go horizontally. You know how we always complain. So I sometimes when I'm explaining these kinds of things, I do get a bit of pushback, and they say, well, I have to learn all these classes. And then if you don't want to learn them, then you're limited to not being able to have as much flexibility in what you're being able to do, right? So treat the learning as a good thing, because the web language and architecture is not going away. All right, so we got these 2 elements in here, but they're like rammed right against each other. Not what I want. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take the group, and I want to say to the group, we could add padding and margin and stuff like that to the sides of it, but the right way to do it is to control it in the behavior from the parent. So we say space on the x-axis sideways, and we're going to say 4 is typical for most UI these days. And I'm going to enter that in. So that's pretty good. So I got these 2 elements, but it's not responsive. So we have to start thinking about responsive design. On a small screen, I don't want flex. On a big screen, I do want flex. So let's go back over to our element. Let's double click flex. And this is the thing that I'm not going to lie. I was kind of like, why did we go and build this thing? I didn't approve this. And then I had to do this. I had to go in here and I had to change, and I had to say medium flex. And it's like, that's why we need this, right? So this was, oops, I don't know why I'm dictating here. There. So this allows us to go and dynamically change those. So now on a medium-sized screen, we have these elements that flex. And on a smaller screen, we don't. But there's one more thing that we have to change. And you notice on the smaller screen, this is indents because we only want to apply the space in between the elements on a medium or bigger screen. So I'm going to go over to space. I'm going to double click that. I'm going to move my cursor over to the beginning, and I'm going to say MD. MD is short form for medium, and it basically means on a medium-sized screen that this will be applied. So that's the fundamentals of the main gist of how we control responsiveness. Right now, let's make it a little bit more interesting here. Let's take our background. We can maybe make that. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say height full. So H full, I'm going to apply to my background so it fills the whole screen. If you get stuck anywhere, just reach out, yell out and say, hey, what do I do here? Right. But this is what and maybe Hassan, what you can do is peek in, or even Pearson, if you add Pearson in, peek in and see where everybody is in terms of and you can save these and preview them, but in terms of their app there. All right, so now I got a pretty simple page. To me, it looks like I'm a back-end developer who made a front-end page, right? So I need to style this up, theme it up a little bit more, maybe add some, as Hassan did, add some more widgetry and such. Let's start with this wrapper that goes around this thing here. I'm going to take this group, and actually, I don't want to modify this because I may want to add more fields in the future. So if I was to duplicate this group, for example, now I have 2 extra fields. Let me get rid of this one, and I'll turn this one into like an address field. Let's make this a little bit wider so we can play around with the width. Tailwind already has a whole bunch of opinionated. Let me just do this first here. Tailwind has a whole bunch of opinionated sizes. We don't want to always be stuck to those. So they introduced something called arbitrary values as well. And what an arbitrary value is you can specify things. Like, for example, if I click on my name, and right now my name, it says text 3XL. Let me get rid of that. And let me instead say text hyphen and in square braces. And maybe the designer put some random rems or some other height, or they wrote it in pixels, and they said it's 27 pixels, which is not a common size, px. And now I can actually enter these arbitrary values right in here. So, 27 px, or even better. There we go. Now we're talking, right? And I can go ahead and I can do that. I'm going to get rid of the italics there. And I can add that kind of stuff in. So they can have these arbitrary values. Again, full control over everything, right? We're not losing out, and we're actually making it a lot, I think anyway, a lot easier or more accessible.
Is anyone else having a problem getting like the text blue 700 to attach to that HTML element, like where Charles has the name? I have text blue 400 in and it's not working at all.
Do you have more than one color?
Nope. I have exactly what you have. I have font bold, I have text 3XL and text blue 700.
Chris didn't delete the H2 tag.
Oh, yes. Good call. Thank you. Yep, I did not do that. Let me go
In the future, that element, when you drag it on, it'll have be just a plain span tag. These tags we've copied over from our development environment, and they're not. Over the next few days, we'll dial these in a little bit more, right? Yep. So we don't have them perfectly dialed in. They're the same elements, but we want them pre-configured so that they're easy to use.
Yep.
You want some feedback points?
Yeah, please do.
So one is when I'm entering classes, I keep pressing tab, and it just removes it and leaves. So I
Right.
think
Tab
we
changes
have
the
to
focus
do
area. How come you're
probably the
hitting tab, may I ask?
sorry?
How come you're hitting tab? Is that for the autocomplete? Are
Yeah.
you like you're expecting it to autocomplete, right? Something tab, because
I was
tab.
thinking about that. Yeah, I'm not sure because what it's kind of irrelevant whether it auto completes or not. Do you know what I mean? Because um, even if you press enter, you're still in that field. You can still type more things. So whether it just completes the autocomplete and allows you to type another one with it next to it, or it actually saves it, it doesn't seem to really matter that much.
Pearson, correct me if I'm wrong, but tab is usually when you see hinting coming after the letter.
Yeah.
Like there's no text coming after my letter right now.
Yeah, like in this case where you have right now, it might show like the word fixed in light gray coming after the BG in the field right there. But I could also see maybe like an expectation that tab would autofill to that first
Yes.
selection in
Yeah,
the
that's
list.
definitely what I would want is to at least autofill the one that's selected in that menu, but also maybe save it as well. That would be an optional.
So autofill and save. I don't see why that. Maybe make a note of that. I don't. Whatever Pearson decides, but that seems reasonable.
Another thing is that when you're like if you go to forms in the elements list and you select something, I feel like this menu, it would make more sense if it was an accordion because it would make it easier to add more of the same thing. You just showed that you can duplicate it, so that makes that easy, but um, I
So
just
you're
feel like,
saying under here. Yeah, there is an architectural reason or a technical reason. Is this thing here is actually part of underneath the hood is part of this
oh,
page to be able to drag stuff into this page because this page is actually a different domain.
yeah.
So there's a technical reason under why we did that, and that may change when we come around and swing around to resolving that. But that's the reason for that.
Okay, and one more thing, I saw terminology layers a few times, and that didn't really make sense to me. I thought it should be levels. Um, so like, yeah, if you click that, um,
I mean, yeah,
it's when it's the first click, right? Doesn't it show?
yeah, there's a hover and it'll say show
Oh, hover.
layers, and the tree is composed of layers, or that's the terminology that we've been using. And that's that was a term used by or selected by me. That's what I'm familiar with as a designer. That's what all the software like Photoshop, Illustrator, Figma, they all refer to those levels as layers. And so it makes sense to me, but to a developer who isn't using those tools like I am,
Parents would be the HTML
yeah,
equivalent.
maybe we got to adjust the terminology to match, you know,
Yeah,
what's
so when you hover and it says see layers, I would expect to see see tree or see hierarchy. And then there was somewhere else where you see where is it? Where do you see the option to move up a layer or move down a layer? Wasn't that somewhere?
oh yeah, in those extra actions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that's wired up yet, but
Yeah, so it says move layer up, move layer down. I would call it level.
Yeah,
But
we'd use the same terminology where we decide. So from a web perspective, from a web development perspective, it's the ancestors and your children, right? Or see parents, but grandparents, it's also, I guess, a parent. So parents would probably be the most right word that the average person coming from the website would see it. Person coming from design side sees layers like on top. From FileMaker perspective, what do you guys see it as? You see it as levels. Is what you're
FileMaker
saying.
doesn't actually have a term for
we
it.
don't have a hierarchy in a FileMaker or layout. We have object ordering, so we could move up and move down, but that's not a hierarchy.
So in absence of a FileMaker one, we'll go with the industry one so that when you learn something here, it's transferable out of here, if that makes sense. That's one of the reasons why we call our scripts hooks, because that's an industry term. you know, those kinds of things, common hooks, scoped hooks, those words you'll see that in other places. So that's interesting.
I see
So
what
that's
Jason's
something we can
saying.
look at.
I think layer to me, just because of Adobe, made sense. But Jason, is there software that you've used that calls it level?
I can't think of anything at the moment. But I just think of layers as something very different. There's no hierarchy with layers, right? Like if you're in Photoshop or whatever, it's just
Yeah, you can show and
it's
hide.
not,
Yeah.
it's not layers within layers, as far as I know.
Well, in Photoshop or Figma, there are groupings like what we see on the left-hand side, and so that's I guess you could call it a hierarchy. It's not the same kind of hierarchy as you might see in web development, but yeah, essentially it's just what is appearing at the top and what appears below it or beside it, and so that's kind of the the function of the layer is moving it up and down or left and right within the context of whatever's around it.
So I'm going to continue here
Gerald,
and
I got one
style
suggestion
up
real
just,
quick.
pardon
In
me?
the, one suggestion in the class menu drop down as you're typing. Like, is there a reason if I type in bold, I don't see text bold and font bold? Then I
Yeah.
know
So that's an
to
interesting one. We looked at that. And here's the thing though, there are hundreds of classes,
Yeah.
right? So you sort of say, oh, if I type in bold, I would see text bold and all the mixed ones.
Yeah.
How does that play out when you want to rifle through them up and down, especially with the number spacing ones? Because those ones are the real ones that you really want to go up and down with.
Mhm.
Like text is a funny one because text can have all kinds of colors. It can have bold, it can have size, you know, and on there. So when you're doing this kind of thing, we want to try to keep these guys together. And most of the alpha sort, they'll kind of work out, you know, you can change that. Incidentally, you can custom the label change here, right, as well. And I think Hassan demonstrated, but I'm not sure. But button is another one. Is if I add a button on here, let's put it down here. That button, I can adjust the classes for the button separately. So that's a tricky one. And these are things that will work out, will iron out definitely, and you know the feedback's really valuable. It's one of these things that do you go by first impression or do you go by now that I'm a super user and dial it in for that person?
Yeah.
Because those are two different experiences. Like for example, our team, like we do a lot of development, and our team is really fast at using the actions in the JSON. Right. And only now I think I see the odd time they're going into the other actions. I force myself personally, but so it's like, you know, if you're fast with shortcuts, or is there possible to do some kind of blend? I don't know. That I imagine we could certainly do that though. We could put some kind of search in there and maybe a hierarchy, the other one, so you could sort of see.
I just think your audience for a graphical UI is probably going to be more entry level, and
Right.
not knowing all the Tailwind classes and how to get something to function. At least if I type in bold, I get the font bold and then the text bold, and I can play around and figure out just going up and down which one's the actual one I want to use. And it would show me the differences between the two. But just a thought.
Yeah, no, I think so. I'm gonna grab
If
another.
you
Can
Yeah,
I
if
add
you
go
look
one
up
more? Can I add one more, Charles?
Pardon me?
Can I add one more
Yeah, please do.
remark?
Please chime in.
There seems to be always one blue activated item
Tag?
attribute there on the right? In your
Does it
classes.
say page?
No, in the classes on the right side.
Oh,
Yeah.
here.
Every time there's one activated, and when I delete one, another one is activated actually. And when you got a nervous finger and you delete it twice.
Oh, the reason that
something.
that is there is so that you can delete multiple quick. Boom, 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 boom.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because quite often it's like, no, I want to just duplicate something, but it's already got a bit of style. Let me just boom, 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 quick,
Okay,
get rid of it.
instead of clicking every time.
Instead of going
one
click,
time.
delete, click, delete, click, delete. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But if that's something that's annoying, we want to know
Well,
about that too.
in FileMaker, we would hold the Shift key maybe, you know, when you want to delete something, you hold the Shift key and you delete instead, and otherwise you delete one.
You're referring to holding shift to multi-select, like you could just hold shift and click multiple tags and click delete one time?
No, if you want to delete records in FileMaker and you have a delete button, you can hold your Shift key and keep on doing delete without having a pop-up in FileMaker, right? That says, are you sure you want to delete?
The undo, there's a few scenarios that the undo doesn't properly trap. So you will see some undos not trapping. That's another one that's known issue.
And if you could attach that to Command Z, that would be cool. Or Command.
Yeah, I think it is in some areas, but not.
In Windows it is. Windows, I just did a Command Z and it undid it.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So one of the things we've developed a lot of sort of tech that for everybody, because this is built in BetterForms at the end of the day. So we developed a number of things, and one of them is we haven't released it yet until we really nail it down, is keyboard strokes and handlers, right? On here, when I use my up and down arrow, I expect one thing to happen. When I'm over here and somewhere, I expect the arrows to be a different thing. And in here, when I'm inside this middle space, which is actually technically a separate application, this is your actual app in here in an iframe, that's a different thing altogether. So how do we handle those keystrokes, and how do we make that manageable in terms of code? Because that can get really, really hairy quick. So about a year and a half ago or so, or a year ago, Michael and I architected out a keyboard handler that basically is context aware. And we can say we can give the whole page a keyboard handler, but then we can give a sub handler for this area and an even smaller one for here. So depending on where the focus is, it kind of looks up the geometry and it handles that. So we'll release that as a thing for when you're building apps that have to have high productivity and keyboard shortcuts, as we sort of find a best practice for that. I'm going to, let's see.
Charles, can you go ahead and give a name to one of those groups?
Sure.
And then click on one of the My Inputs. And click on the View Layers.
Oh, I don't want to click on it because I know
Oh, you can't really see it on that one because it's GUI, I guess, but
Right.
it doesn't show
yeah,
the
here, let me do
name
this.
that you gave.
Yeah, just do this for a second.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. There might be some, let's see. Page body group. Yeah. So this doesn't update. So
Right.
I'll report that right now. Actually, hold on. I'm clicking the layers of the group. This one's called JSON. It wouldn't show up in here. Oh, but it's in the inner ones. Yeah, right. The inner ones. That's correct. Okay. So let me do that.
And I also noticed that, I mean, I don't know exactly how it goes if there's more layers, but why isn't the third one indented? I mean, I guess it would just keep indenting forever.
Here, over here, or here.
Yeah, in there. Yeah.
Yeah, these will probably be right left justified. I don't think they're going to be indented because they're parents, but they're always going to be indented because it's implied that they are because they're parents, right? So these will probably all just be left justified. I think we already have a task in for that.
Charles, just thinking of FileMaker behavior, like when I click on an object in my main section, it's not highlighting the object in the tree.
Is the group open?
Yeah.
And how would you express? So what would be an example I could do on my page here?
Oh, I see. The group has to open. Okay, so if the
Yeah.
group
So do you think that
closed,
should open up the group and show you, or should it highlight the closed group? Like, should that group be highlighted like that
I
when
think
you're
if it
here?
highlights the closed group, that would be a good first step.
I was leaning towards opening it, but
Or open it, either one, but I think
but you know, it would be cool if it remembers that it opened it, and then when you click somewhere else, it closed it, unless you manually opened it previously.
yeah.
I think that definitely clicking it should open the group just to reveal what is selected.
Yeah.
Reverting it back to a closed group after clicking away, that's an interesting concept. I haven't seen that, but I
Well,
could see
the
the
reason
value in
I
it.
suggest that is because you'll just end up opening everything if you're clicking
Mhm.
around your page.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
yeah, that's why I'm thinking it just
Do we
leaves the
need
ones
that? Like,
open that you opened yourself, and then the ones that it opens, it keeps it open until you leave the context.
do we need some kind of collapser that you click on it and you go collapses?
Yeah, that'd be nice. I also think being able to name your groups from the left-hand panel rather than having to drill down all the time would be really nice. Rather than have to select each group, just go down your tree like in FileMaker where when you get nested groups, you can just go right down and name
So
them
that,
in the
so if I'm
left-hand side.
understanding you correct, Chris, if it was like this and I was here, I could use my down arrow and it would do this. I'll sort of simulate it. Down arrow, down arrow, down or right arrow would do that.
No, I'm sorry, naming from that.
So if you double click
Oh
groups,
yeah,
you can
yeah. I
rename
think
them.
that's
Yeah.
on the near list as well. I think Pearson had mentioned that. Correct me
Okay.
if I'm wrong. But
Mhm.
double clicking on these and just doing the same behavior.
Yes, correct.
Right. There's a number of things that from a UX point of maybe Pearson can address this more, just about how you said you want to get rid of this in here.
Yeah, I think that there's just some more common patterns like double click to rename or to edit the name of something and not having to manually click a check mark or an X. It's just enter or escape to commit or cancel. That's a pattern that I want to implement more throughout the app, but definitely in certain areas here.
And I think it'd be really nice to be able to drag one group into the other just from the tree rather than always having, I mean, imagining a really complex layout and trying to find the exact group. Like FileMaker, you can reorder things from there. Oh, we can reorder things. Oh, you can. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a little we got to adjust the drop zone areas because
Yeah.
it can be a little bit tricky. So there's two things in
Yeah.
here. And then if I take
Nice.
this group,
Yeah, very nice. Oh, that's fantastic.
let's set a max width on this.
Somehow by me dragging it just created a duplicate of it too. There was one
Oh.
accident. If you drag it from one group to the other, I now have, that's weird. Take the one that's the item that's your my input, the top my input,
Yep.
and drag that into another group. It just created, I have 3 of those my inputs now. No, you just didn't do,
You got some bad drags. Yeah, that could be very well could be an issue. I think I've seen that before as well.
okay. Yeah, this is really nice though. I see how naming objects is going to be really important. So yeah, I definitely think if I could name it from that left-hand tree and just kind of go through stuff quickly. And
Right.
as I arrow down on the left-hand side, it could highlight the object in the pane would be great.
Can you select and copy styles from one item to another?
That's a great question. So let's look at that. Yeah, you absolutely can do. So what you do is I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to make it a little wider. So I'm going to say width 64. And I'm going to say width 64 on a medium-sized screen. And on everything else, I'm going to say width even full. There. All right. So now on a medium-sized screen, it's going to be width 64 and it's going to go full width otherwise, right? And I want to copy this so I can copy style and I just click onto the other one and then I can hit escape. There's not a clear visual indicator though, I think, of that you're in copy style mode, but you can definitely copy styles like that.
And
So here,
what you did there to copy the style.
so
Oh.
copy, so I found the one I'm going to want to copy this style to this field up above. So I copy style, and then just click on the other element.
It stays
Does
active.
that just copy all the classes or like
It
what if
does,
there's
yeah.
not
It copies these classes here.
Can you keep on clicking, Charles? Then can you click somewhere else? Because can you click on the back end?
Yeah, you have to hit escape. We need a clear
Oh,
indication that
okay.
you're in that mode. Maybe the cursor changes or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think actually previously something might have happened and it went away, but the cursor was meant to change into that paintbrush icon that shows up beside the copy style, and that's the indicator that you're still in your copy style mode. But once you're done copying style to multiple elements, that's when you can click escape and leave that mode. And Charles, do you know if it's copying and adding classes, or is it replacing pre-existing classes with
Oh,
what you're copying over?
it's copying. It's replacing, sorry.
And is that something that is it beneficial to replace styles entirely, or should it be adding styles? Or maybe do we even have enough experience using this
Put it
so
this
far
way,
to
if you have two dissimilar elements because you want to make the second one the same as the first one, you have to replace everything. Otherwise, it will not be the same. If you think of it that way.
Mhm.
That layers button again, I don't feel like it needs a hover. Why doesn't it just show you the like it's got the hover and then you click on it and it shows something else? Just show the tree when you hover.
Sorry, see that again? This is the layers button.
Yeah, so click out of it and then hover over it.
And you're expecting it not to see the hint, but just to
Yeah, why
open
don't
up
just
the
go right
layers.
to the information right away? Like you don't even need to click it.
Yeah, I could say that. My concern is, so right now there's a delay, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
half a second.
was thinking take away the delay.
You take away the delay, and as you're moving around, you're going to see a lot of flashing.
But
Like it's
no,
already
so you're
defined on
not,
bigger
because
pages.
you have to select the item first.
True enough. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'll leave that up to Pearson then. Bow out on that one.
I'll go back to the copy style again, not hands-on, so I don't know how this plays out, but right now you said you click and it copies the style. How about if you did a shift click and it was an additive copy? Because I could see where you've got something partially styled, but now I'm doing the responsive piece and I want to make all the widths and I don't want to mess with all the colors or the whatever else.
Well, there was another uh idea that we had thought about briefly, but we haven't implemented yet, and that's to select or multi-select the classes from the right side and copying those and applying them to layers. So you have the quick replace all styles and copy the style to another element with that special action. But I think also just being able to click and select specific classes from the right side and copying those, pasting them into other elements. I think that would solve what you're referring to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that's fine too. Yeah, I do a lot of, and sorry, a little biased, but I do a lot of video editing, and Final Cut Pro has that global copy the attributes from one clip to another, but you can also select them on and off. So they actually have a checklist in there when you go to paste, if you do it that way.
Hmm.
They have the blind paste, and then they have when you click paste, there's a checklist of the attributes, all of them, and you just turn them on.
Yeah. I've seen that in Premiere Pro where, yeah, you're copying attributes, but it's asking, do you want to copy all the motion attributes or the opacity attributes or all these
Exactly.
effects attributes and select which ones you want to actually apply.
Yeah,
So
but again,
I've
this
seen
is
that pattern
so we
before.
need to think about that. But I think the ability to be selective is important.
Hmm.
Are there predefined classes as well that are groups of all of these styles? It would be a starting point.
You can create those, yeah. So some of the templates already have those built in, like button primary is a treatment that you can apply and gives does that as an example.
I noticed does the AI assistant respect this, or?
Not yet. It'll actually, I think it's in dev. It'll in dev. It'll say, yeah. It knows about it, but it knows they also can't help you.
Okay.
Right within here. This is one that we're working on. That's why one of the focuses of our new AI, because it's a little bit more powerful, that it can actually identify and change the schema under the hood. One of the things we're working on is we're investigating, and I shouldn't say we haven't started, is the ability for the AI to only update the bits, the diffs. ChatGPT has a new module out, or sorry, OpenAI has a new module out. I forget what it's called, but it allows you to use Canvas, and only sometimes, not all the time, only some lines will update, and that's really powerful, because when you only update some lines, you can control, and you can have a much more quicker feedback. It can come back to you much quicker.
I was thinking for AI and this editor, like you could potentially only send the AI the object that you have selected, and then through its API, it could say, actually, I need the layer up too,
And that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of the idea with other things too. Not just that, but what about actions? I have a button, connect my button up to something. Well, it needs to know what actions you have. So our current AI can fetch the actions, and it can fetch a list of all the pages as well. So it can say, hey, take me to the accounting page. And then it says, I think the current one can do this. It's either that or the one in dev. Anyhow, and it'll fetch a list of all the pages and say, okay, is it this the page that you want? So it doesn't have to have the entire app in its context. It can go and fetch that data. And that's why we wrote all those other things, or the code for all the other things. I guess this wouldn't really look good. I'm trying to think of how I want to organize this, but it's so much easier when you're working with it, where you actually have a plan, because then you're actually doing something with intent. Like when you're just goofing around, there's no true intent in what you're trying to do here. So anyhow, we should finish up, because we're going to be running out of time.
Hey, Charles, one more high-level strategic thought. As you know, at the beginning, I kind of asked you where the company's going. You talked about potential rebranding. This is a dramatic enough change in UI, and granted, you have to bring the current users along to the new this new UI. But I think this is a great opportunity to consider changing the product name. Right? You're going to try and attract a whole new group of people, and you say, okay, this is the fundamental feature. And if you want to go deep dive and do it all mechanically or all manually, that's great. But here's the UI.
Totally agree. What would you change it to? Just curious.
You just said a moment ago we have to have intent. I don't know. I have to think about that.
Oh yeah, it's a whole process that we're trying to do, but
you're right to tag it to web development. And all not all web development, but so much needs data behind it and business rules. And I don't know. Think about that. We'll maybe send you a Christmas present.
Yeah. Alrighty, I'm gonna pause this. Play around in there. Please do report bugs and things like that. They are there. So if you don't report them, I know you're lying. But that's where we're at. We're almost there, guys. Once we are here, and the AI that we're working on, I think is going to be pretty sweet. I can't really give you too much of a preview of that, but let me just tell you real quick about that. We got about 5 minutes. Eduardo's saying, "Oh no, I got it all taken apart. Don't do this right now."
Nope.
Okay. So if here's where we're going with the AI. Okay. So just to give you a bit of a some background there. Oh, this is one thing here too. Sorry, this one's gonna be a little bit more broken in here. I won't be able to do this here now that I think about it. Shoot. All right, never mind. I realize something's broken here. But where we're going with the AI is you can ask a question, like a very complex question that's multi-step and involves a lot of things. And you can say, I want to add a new feature to my page or to my site. I want to add invoices to my site. And I said, okay. Well, what does that entail? Well, invite a list view. Okay, let's start with the list view. What kinds of information do you want to show on there? What features? And here's some other ideas as well, but let's keep it to a minimal viable product. Now let's go on to the next page. And then once it has a bit of a plan, it'll build out those pages and scaffold them out for you already. And then you can start to wire them up and use the AI in the smaller sections. So that's really the big thing that we're sort of working on. And we're actually working on that, I would say, more even than our editor here, because I think that was going to be a real game changer when we add that in. All righty. Any questions or anything like that? I know we had some good feedback, so thank you for that. Somebody asked if we can add a toggle option on each of the style elements instead of deleting the style, similar to a double click. So you can turn it on and off. That's interesting. So you click it once maybe, and you click it again and it would hide like an eye or something like that. So you can see the effect. That's what I think you're getting at. We'll turn the red. So that means to disable double click again. So maybe some kind of a hide or something like that. So you're trying to see what happens. I think it's possible. The only thing I think there is, I think it might be good to wait to see how people figure out those classes. And maybe there's something else that we could do to make it more clear what an H, or P4 does, that kind of thing. For example, we did build in, it's not enabled, but we did build into this picker the ability to have tooltips and to be the ability to look at what do they call contraindications. So you have an H2 and an H5. That something's wrong there, right? So they can turn color. So we actually added the ability to do that, but we just haven't built out the UI for it. But that was scaffolded in the original architecture. So that might help for a lot of those kinds of things as well. All right, draw time. If you've registered before about 3:30 or so, and we got some here. I'll show you what we got. These are pretty cool. These are authentic. Just a sec. Get them out. These are pretty sweet, I think. These are all the way made in authentic, made in Canada toques. We call them toques up here. I don't know. I guess it's a French word or something. But we got some prizes if you have one already. Then see Madalena and she'll get you hooked up. Alrighty. If you're not here, you don't win. That's how that works. All right, Jake, are you here? Let's try again. Daxit, are you here? still?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Give Madalena the information and she'll get you hooked up, okay? You can reach out on Slack at Madalena. She is in the call here as well. All right, congratulations. Probably don't need a hat though. So maybe we'll pick a t-shirt. Might be more suitable. All right, well, we're going to end our recording here. Thank you everybody for coming out today. I hope we really do want to hear your feedback and see if we're kind of on the right track and all of that stuff. So thanks again. Cheers.